Hey, Sarah Marrinan here, and just like last fall, I have Tim Erickson with me, and Tim is an amazing lending professional. So we need to include him on all of these conversations about the housing market and what it costs to buy a house and all of that, right, Tim?
Absolutely love to help, Sarah. Thanks for having me, and
Awesome.
appreciate it.
So Tim and I are going to talk about a number of things today. And so I'm just going to throw some facts out at you first, and then we're going to go back and elaborate on some of them. And, you can always message us if you have more specific questions after. So the first thing that Tim and I were talking about was that the median family income only rose 3.3% in September, and that's year over year based on the previous year, but the median home price in Minnesota grew 16%. So ultimately, that means that affordability has weakened. Um, just kind of a cool fact, and Tim, you can chime in with your fact on this. But if you are one of those homeowners who bought your house 30 years ago and you've stayed in it this whole time, you've got naturally market gaining equity, nationally based, of $305,480, just equity you've gained by holding onto your home for 30 years. What was your stat, Tim, about?
Yeah, that's crazy. 37% in the Minneapolis metro area over 5 years.
Wow. So if you've had your home 5 years, you've gained 37% equity just from owning the home.
Exactly. Big numbers.
That's big. So inflation is rising. They say it's gradual enough as we are recovering from this pandemic. It's nothing to worry about too much. However, the cost of housing is part of inflation, and rents rose 2.4% in the last 12 months. So your rent cost is not going up nearly as much as the cost to buy a home has in the last year. What else, Tim?
Forbearances. There's been
Okay.
some information on mortgage forbearances for people that do own homes, or I've heard things like people are in forbearance and they are not going to be able to make their payments to get
Right.
caught up, and there's going to be a big market flood of that, and that's just not the case. Most of these forbearance agreements are, for 3 months, and then those 3 months are added to the end of the loan. So it's not like 4 months is due at one time. So hearing a lot of misconceptions on that.
Well, that's good to know, because forbearance is not foreclosure, right? So people in forbearance doesn't mean they're going to be in foreclosure. It just means that they were able to stop paying their mortgage for just a few months to get back on their feet. They're still going to owe that money, but it's tacked on to the end of the loan. So even if they sell, it's just part of their balance. It's not affecting, like foreclosure processes or anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally true. And if anybody is in forbearance and they are looking to refinance or purchase again, they just have to get caught up for three payments.
As of right now, anyway.
As
But
of right now, yeah.
We'll talk more about that later.
Great.
So the builder confidence in November was also at an all-time high, a 35 years since they've been tracking high. Builders are super confident. The other thing that's hard to swallow is because of all the fast rising house prices, right? That doesn't mean we're in a bubble again, right? The amount of cash purchases in the last year alone, I believe, was like 19%. So people have a lot of money that they're putting into this, and that keeps, the housing market strong. So, Tim, what were you saying about interest rates and cash too? We had some good information on interest rates. We see a lot of headlines say they're going down, but they haven't just been going down. They've been kind of bouncing along the bottom.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the year over year stat that you brought, last time, they're down close to 1% since that time.
Okay.
And they are near all-time lows. And of course, very recently occasionally you hear rates are down, and it might come over, every week or two. But they don't tell you when rates just inch up a little bit. Hey, rates inched up, because that's not good reading material. So when they do come back down, yeah, because any stocks or bonds, they go up and down in a little bit of trench. So it's always news when they go to that bottom part, but it's not news when they go up. So what goes up usually comes down.
Right. So speaking of stock markets, the stock market has been booming. And I mentioned inflation a little bit before, and as long as inflation inches up slowly, that's really healthy. Nobody wants to see inflation. That means things are getting more expensive. We just need incomes to catch up with that. And what did I say? I read somewhere that Biden might extend some of these forbearance options all the way to 2022, just to give people all this time to get strongly employed again for the housing market or for the job market to come back. So that's good. The other positive thing is that, the housing market has been kind of a light in all of this pandemic stuff. It's been strong. Unfortunately, I hate to say it that way, but we're up in the realtor count 30% over last year at this time. There are 30% more realtors out there. So the downside to that is 30% of the agents you're seeing advertising themselves or that you might encounter have zero experience right now. So I'm not so sure if that's who you want to hire. Just that's something to know, is that you might start feeling like you're seeing a real estate agent around every corner. Well, it was pretty easy during the pandemic to sit at home online and take real estate classes. So we got a lot of newbies out there. So just keep that in mind if you are thinking about making a move. And the reason I bring that up is because there are a lot of sellers that are getting more confident now that we have a vaccine on the horizon about actually putting their house on the market and making a move. They're not as nervous about sick people coming in. Buyers are not as nervous about going on showings, even though we've had such a hot market this year. It's bound to actually get hotter in the spring if this vaccine truly does hit the ground running. So word to the wise.
Yeah, which is great news. And with that inflation and those sales price, there has been the loan limits for conforming loans and FHA, but conforming loans, which we do the majority of those, have went up as well. It went up about 37 grand to $548,250 for 2021. So this is the fifth year that those have went up, but there was 11, 12 years where it didn't go up at all. So they're finally kind of catching up, I think, with the prices of homes.
Well, because new construction homes, I mean, depending on where you're at, some neighborhoods are starting at 600,000. There's one near me that's starting at 425 for a small single family and like 300 for a townhouse. So I think that the cost of construction has gone up during the pandemic. We've got a shortage of supply because of the supply chain disruption, and we have a shortage of workers because a lot of people had to stay home during the pandemic, and just like all these things, and that propped up the new construction cost, which then elevates the price. And then as long as new construction is expensive, all the existing homes keep high values. So we've got a lot going on with that too. And unless those costs come down, right, the cost to build a new house can't come down. They say that's non-elastic supply. And that's why there's this supply and demand issue that we were kind of mentioning early. Demand is like what Tim has, a lot of cheap and easy to get money.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
And 19% of people being able to pay for their homes in cash, whether it's because they cashed out the equity from another house or they had it sitting in a bank account or whatever. I mean, that's a lot of money chasing a limited non-elastic supply. So that again says not a bubble, because we can't come down, we can't build new. That'll keep supply low, and the demand will be there as long as the interest rates are reasonable and it's easy to get money.
Yeah, which is awesome. Hey, Sarah, what has kind of been like when you segment out the type of homes that, that are out there, like how are those been? Like what have you been seeing with types of homes here recently?
Well, one kind of news headline that's been a little bit true, if that's the right word, has been people are leaving their condos and their close quarter housing situations for bigger homes, suburban homes, because it's really, COVID's cramped their style literally. Like just too close to too many people, too tight. They have a desire to get moved out, to get more space. If they have the option now, especially permanently, to start working from home, people want, bigger home spaces so that they can have a private office and not commute anymore. And if they're not commuting, they don't need to live as close to work, so they can move out a little bit. So we're not seeing that price growth evenly across the board. When I was mentioning like how much the cost of homes have gone up, like a lot of condos have been level or flat or even dipping a little bit depending on where they are. And then it's like the suburban, especially the first ring suburban homes that have seen the best increase. And I personally, just in what I feel in the market this year, I've been getting a lot of calls where people are like, oh, I just need a bigger yard or more outdoor space or a couple extra bedrooms, or, it's all related to life changes that have happened during the pandemic for the most part. Some things are still normal. I need to move because we're having kids, or I just got married, or we're getting divorced, or grandma died and we need to sell her house. And I mean, all the natural life changes are still happening amongst people having a lot of time to shop right now, comparatively, without having any events or restaurants to go to.
Yeah, interesting. It's all great stats and all makes sense once you put it in an easy digestible thing there. So thanks for that, Sarah. That's great.
Any other little things you think we should tell people about the market from the mortgage side?
I mean, rates are great. And so that's the big thing. There's always low down payment options if needed, but most of the time, the more you put down, the better those payments are going to look on your behalf. So, it's always a great time to buy, but it ultimately comes down to when's the right time for you. And that's what we're here to do, is kind of help discover that time if anybody needs a conversation about it.
And I think that something you didn't mention, but now that we're talking about COVID coronavirus kind of fears, if somebody wants to move sooner than later and they don't want to wait for everybody to get vaccinated and things to simmer down, one of the good choices, if they already own a home and have some equity in it, like what did you say? How much equity have people gained in the last 5 years?
37.5%.
Right? That could easily get you a HELOC or a bridge loan, right? To get you 20% down on the next house as long as you qualify.
Yep,
and
if you wanted to buy it
have people in your home while you're living there.
Yep. Yeah, if you wanted to buy it non-contingent, you can access that equity with some sort of bridge loan or home equity line.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the ability to shop for your next home before you get your first home sold.
Yep, absolutely.
Just reduces a lot of exposure for people who are high risk or nervous or homeschooling, or all the reasons that it's really hard to show your house right now during a pandemic.
Absolutely. All good thing. All the tools are out there for you.
Right. Anything else, Tim, before I sign off and we let people get back to their boring pandemic activities like puzzles and going for a run every day? And what else are we doing during a Minnesota pandemic?
I'm sure there's more shows to binge, so I'm sure we can all get back to that as well.
You haven't exhausted your Netflix, Amazon, and Sling queue yet, Tim?
I'm well on my way, for sure.
Well, the holiday specials are out now, so we're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
got some new
Bring
stuff to watch.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, thanks for having me, Sarah.
Yep,
Appreciate
have a good
it.
day.
Too.